if I were to go back and read that very first book that I self-published, I'd probably have a lot to say about it now because I've learned a lot since then. I've written and self-published several books since then. However, that very first book was a fiction novel, and since then I've just been writing nonfiction books, and I've come to this point now where I've been itching, just dying to get my hands back into fiction. I have all these stories and all these ideas just floating around in my head in notebooks from my childhood and my early adult years. So I decided a few weeks ago that I was going to get back into fiction writing, and I did. It was very slow at first. I was a little worried that it was just going to be a waste of time because with fiction writing, you really don't know if anybody's going to like your book in the end. It's hard to know if you're going to make any money off of it. But as I was reminded by friends and family, and as I had to remind myself, if I was enjoying the process, it didn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, I do have to take breaks in between all the chaos of taking care of a family and a house and raising children. I do have to have something I can work on for me, some sort of creative project. It really fills me up, and that's really important to me. So my current creative project is now a new fiction novel, and I am so into it because it literally just started to suck me in the past few days, and I have been writing like crazy. But what's different about this time with me writing this new novel is that I have a different method for approaching the writing that's making it way more efficient, and that's pulling out that creativity way faster. With my first novel, I had to kind of slog through it a lot and figure out a lot of things. You know, anytime you do something for the first time, there's a lot of learning, there's a big curve just trying to figure stuff out. Since then, I've found some tools that have really helped me to dive back into that creativity and just pull it out a lot faster. One of these tools that I love is called brain.fm. They have an app on the phone, and I found this, I don't even remember how I found it. Somehow I found it because I was getting into meditation and calming music and brain waves, and I was learning about binaural beats and how that works and everything. And somehow I managed to find this app, brain.fm. It is really, really cool. They don't actually do binaural beats. That's not what they do, but they use something called, I don't remember what it's called. I think it starts with an E. But basically it sort of uses music and sounds to align with your brain waves and pull out different states of mind. I'm obviously not a psychologist, but what it has on the app are different sections that you can choose from, you know, based off of your current goal. Are you trying to meditate? Are you trying to increase focus? Are you trying to go to sleep? So for me, when I'm working on writing this book, I click on the focus section, and under that, there's a subcategory called creativity. And those sounds, that music that you listen to is designed to help align your brain into a really good state of creativity. And it actually works. So I've been just sitting for an hour at a time basically and putting on my headphones, blocking out all noise, and just listening to this music. Let me tell you, I have been writing so much faster than I have ever written before in my entire life. I had one writing session where I wrote, I think, almost 3,000 words in an hour, which for me is crazy. I'm sure for a professional writer that's nothing, but for me, just getting back into writing a novel, especially a fictional novel, that's a lot. Plus, my style of writing is very snowflake method, if you know what that means, where I don't like doing a whole lot of planning ahead of time. I kind of have this vague idea of where my novel is going to go, and then I sort of just let the events play out as I'm typing. I interview my characters, I kind of just watch what's happening, I kind of see what's going on in the next scene, and later I go back and fix things to make sure everything flows smoothly, that there's a good plot, that there's good character arcs. And because of that writing style that I have, plugging myself into this music that is just really pulling out that creativity, I really quickly get into this state of flow where I am just writing, the ideas are coming, everything's flowing, the words are coming. Close to 3,000 words in an hour was definitely the anomaly for me. Normally I get closer to 1,000 words per hour because I am still having to stop and think a little bit. You know, it's not like everything's just coming out crazy rapid speed, right? That one time where I got close to 3,000 words, I knew exactly what was happening. I literally just had to get it down on paper. Other than that, I do have to stop and think about, where is this scene going to go? What words are coming out of my character's mouth right now? How is this character going to respond? And what's the perfect word choice for this sentence right here? The second thing I would say is so critical to making sure you increase your writing speed and stay efficient is to avoid editing at all costs. I literally have to remind myself of this every single minute that I'm working on this story, because it is so tempting to write a sentence and read back through it real quick and just think, oh, that sounds awkward, it sounds slow, it sounds sluggish, it doesn't sound interesting, it's not going to pull the reader through the story. And you're probably right. All of those thoughts that you have are probably pretty accurate. However, the more that you stop and try to edit and fix your words and perfect your sentences, the more you stop your flow of thought, which means you are much, much more susceptible to writer's block. In fact, that's what I would say is one of the biggest factors that causes writer's block, is just that editing mindset, because you're trying to perfect it on the go, you're trying to perfect it before you even finish the story, which means you get frustrated in the process, your mind gets stuck, you're interrupting flow, and you never get to the end. It is so important, especially the first time you write a book, just to finish the novel, because if you do, you're going to feel so much better, you're going to feel more confident in your ability to complete something, and then after that, honestly, is the easy part. You know, for some people, editing is a little bit more difficult than writing the story the first time, but after you've written the whole thing, you can get help because you have everything there on paper. People can help you work through the plot. People can help you work through the grammar if that's not your strong suit. You yourself have a bigger picture that you can now look at and tweak and adjust and add characters or add depth or add backstory, whatever it is that you need to spice up your story. Another massively important thing to do while you're writing your book is to keep reading. It can be tempting while you're in the flow of writing your book to just write and write and write and spend all your free time focusing on writing that book. But what happens when you also read is you pick up on the styles of different authors, you pick up on different ideas for sentence structure, for varied dictation from different characters, for different plot lines. You just pick up all these ideas and you see the way that authors are writing, and almost subconsciously you start to imbibe that understanding. I'd say that this holds true for just about anything that you're trying to learn. If you are not an artist and you go to an art museum, you're looking at all the paintings, you're probably not going to notice a lot of the nuances of those different pieces of artwork. I know this happens to me. Even though I did study art for several years, I still go to museums and look at paintings like, what were they thinking? I don't understand why that's in a museum. However, if you do get into studying art, then you start to notice, oh, these brushstrokes are really even, or wow, these brushstrokes are really intentional because of XYZ, or oh, I see that these colors really match, or they contrast really beautifully, or the lines just really bring out the flow of this image. Okay, I obviously don't sound like an artist here, but the point is, when you are learning something, when you're doing something, you're practicing art yourself, you start to notice things from other artists, and in turn you start to learn from their examples, and you start to implement some of their techniques into your own artwork, and it kind of goes back and forth, and you just keep learning and growing. The same thing happens when you are writing and you are reading. When you're reading, you're learning from those authors, you're able to implement those things that you learn into your own writing style, and then you get more interested and you notice more of the nuances and the techniques of authors, and it just goes back and forth, and you just get better and better and better. If you do hit writer's block, you've been following all these techniques, what I would say is go find a place to get inspired. If you have to go drive up into the mountains, if you have to go to the beach, if you've got to, I don't know, fly across the ocean to find a really cool facility that you can sit in for 5 hours, whatever you've got to do to get inspired and to just get some ideas flowing, do that. And you don't really have to go far. Honestly, for me, just going out and getting away from the normal environment that I live in and just sitting somewhere different for a few hours totally frees up my creativity. Most of the time this is a place in nature, so a hike, could be a rock by a stream somewhere. But there are many times where I'm walking around a museum that I've never been to before, or even just walking in a downtown area that I don't visit very often, or I'm sitting in a cafe that I've never eaten in before. They just sort of mix things up for me mentally, and then I start getting more ideas, I start getting more of this flow of creativity. Even if those locations have nothing to do with my novel, it really just helps to spice up some of those ideas. The idea for this novel that I'm working on right now came from a recent obsession with meditation and manifestation and how our minds are able to sort of create our realities. So that is definitely getting implemented into my book, but more in a sort of superhuman sort of way. Comment down below with some of your favorite techniques for decreasing writer's block and increasing inspiration. As always, keep creating. I believe that creativity is one of the biggest pillars of self-care that gets neglected or left behind. Do it for you, do it for your family, do it for the world, whatever. Just keep creating, and I will see you guys next time.